Am I the arsehole for getting my sister-in-law arrested at her wedding? So I rescued my dogs about 6 months ago from a puppy mill. When I first got them, they had quite a few medical issues, but they've adjusted to their new life really, really well. And my now sister-in-law, we'll call her Amy, had met the dogs a couple of times before the events of this story occurred. Amy asked if my dogs could be the ring bearer and flower girls at her wedding. I should probably just say that me and Amy do not get on at all. And in the past, she's said some really cruel things about me. She says these things to my family and everybody else who will listen, to be honest. Probably worth mentioning that I'm not even invited to the wedding because I would, quote, ruin the vibe. So I told her that she would not be using my dogs in her wedding for multiple reasons. One of them being, I wasn't invited to the wedding, and also that the dogs were having surgery a couple of days prior. Safe to say, Amy was not happy about being told no. So this event happened a couple of weeks ago. So all my dogs had had their surgery on a Thursday, and the wedding was set to be on Sunday evening. So me and my husband went to run some errands on Sunday morning, and when we left, all of our dogs were asleep. So all of a sudden, I get a notification about motion at my back door. So obviously I check the notification and I see Amy just opening the door and walking into our house. So I turned to my husband and I was like, we need to go back to the house now. So at this point, I call my brother and I'm like, get your wife out of my house before I call the police. My brother then hung up on me. And when I got home, all my dogs were gone. And their cones from the surgery that they had 3 days ago were left in their crates. So again, I'm popping on the phone to the police for breaking and entering and, theft. So the police arrived and I showed them the video of Amy just walking into my house. And then the one of her leaving with our dogs. So obviously it's the morning of her wedding, so I told them where the venue is because I'd seen a copy of the invitation. So the police made it to the venue and they were able to locate every single one of my dogs. And because they didn't have the cones on, one of them had managed to open one of her stitches and she was bleeding. Amy was arrested in the middle of getting ready for her wedding. Actually ended up getting charged with a Class A felony and then a couple of misdemeanors. Now everyone's saying that I overreacted about the situation and that I ruined the whole entire wedding. And then some people are saying that I should pay for the whole wedding since it didn't get to go ahead. So what do you think? Am I the arsehole for not telling my boyfriend that I'd had plastic surgery? I've been dating this guy for about 4 months now. When I was 22, I had a nose job because I'd broken my nose twice as a kid and I was left with quite a large bump. Then when I was 23, I had my boobs done, which bumped me up a few cup sizes as well. To be honest, these were lifelong things that I've been insecure about and bullied over, so it was a relief to get them done. So now you've got the context, let's move to the present. I met my boyfriend, we'll call him Steve, through a friend. And up until now, things have been great. Last night, I was sat on the sofa with him just scrolling through social media. And this is when I stumbled upon an old classmate's vacation pictures. In the picture, she's wearing a bikini and she quite obviously has had her boobs done. Now, don't get me wrong, she looked great. But you could defo tell there was a little something in there. So Steve glances over and he just says, gross. So of course I then asked, what's your deal? And he said that women that get implants or other procedures are a massive turn off to him. He then went on to say how men prefer women that are natural and don't have 2 balloons on their chest. And he just kept saying how insecure it made her look. So I just couldn't help but laugh. So I turned around and said, well, you're turned off by me then. And of course, he got really confused and asked what I meant. So that was when I informed him that I had had procedures done. He kept denying it and saying that I was just joking. That was until I showed him old pictures of me. He then got really, really quiet and left shortly after that. I then got a text from him saying that I should have disclosed this to him on our first date. And that I have led him on. And now he's saying how he needs to reconsider things. It's now the next day and I still haven't heard anything. And I am just so bewildered by the whole situation. So what do you think? Am I in the wrong for cancelling a whole vacation when I found out my stepsister hid my passport so I'd have to stay home? I have 1 biological sister and 2 stepsisters. Both my stepsisters are single mums and they both live at home with my family. So there's been issues in the past where my stepsisters have asked me to babysit for them. At first, I didn't really mind because they did pay me, but it wasn't that much, so in the end, I just ended up sacking it off. So talks of this holiday start coming up and my 2 stepsisters, we'll call them Monica and Leah, suggested that I should stay home so I could watch the children even though I wanted to go on the holiday as well. They said this would be better than hiring a babysitter because their babies are more used to me. They also highly implied that I wasn't fond of the destination that they were booking, even though I'd made it obvious multiple times that I really wanted to go. They even suggested that my stepmom should pay me double to try and get me to look after their children. There was just a lot of back and forth going on until my dad just demanded everybody to stop bringing it up. So last week, we were supposed to go on this vacation. I had that panic that I hadn't packed my passport, so I just double checked, even though I knew I'd definitely put it in, and lo and behold, my passport was not in my bag. It was literally nowhere to be seen, and my dad was like, it's fine, we'll go back to the house and we'll try and look for it there. But my stepmom and stepsisters were adamant that they needed to get to the airport, otherwise we were going to miss the flight. And then they kept insisting that I should just stay at home and look after the kids and not try and find the passport. And I just outright refused. I was like, I am going on this holiday. And that was when my darling stepsister Monica admitted to helping Leah hide my passport so that I would have to stay home and babysit their children. She denied that this had happened. And that was when my dad threatened to cancel the holiday until they gave it back. Even though they did end up giving it back, my dad still cancelled the holiday as a way of punishing these 28-year-old women. My stepmom then said that I should be punished for making her daughters worry about their children when we were on vacation. Now I'm being blamed for ruining the family holiday. So what do you think?
Am I wrong for not sharing a reward with my family? Anytime I went to the beach with my grandfather, he loved to use his metal detector. He would spend hours walking on the sand and finding coins and stuff. Every once in a while, he'd find jewelry, but what I remember most is him helping someone out. It was the end of the day and there was a family looking through the sand, obviously looking for something. So my grandfather, being my grandfather, went over and asked if he could help. They told my grandpa they had lost their car keys, so he went back to our car, got his metal detector, and literally found it within 5 minutes. The family was so grateful and tried to give my grandpa money, but he did refuse. Anyway, I got into the hobby, but not as seriously as him. So when my family goes to the beach, I want to swim and have fun, but I do spend at least an hour looking for stuff with the detector. It's the one my grandpa gave me, so it reminds me of spending time with him, and all of my other siblings think I'm a dork. Well, on Memorial Day, me and my family went to the beach and I hit the jackpot. I found a diamond ring and it was huge. Am I wrong for not sharing a reward with my family? So the whole family got together at Memorial Day and I spent an hour on the beach with my detector. I hit the jackpot and found a diamond ring. It was huge. I put it in my pocket and kept going, and while I was having some food, a guy came up to us and asked if I was the kid with the gadget. Of course, I told him that I was, and when he asked if I found a ring, I said that I had. He explained to me that it was his wife's, and my dad asked him to prove it. So he pulls out a picture of the exact ring from the day before, which was his wedding. So I gave it back to him and he freaked out. I guess it was a family heirloom and worth a lot of money. But mostly, his wife was literally puking her guts out for losing it. He pulled out his wallet and gave me $500, and I told him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted. My cousin and sister think I should share the reward, but I didn't think that was fair, so I said no. They think I'm being greedy, and my dad said that I should share it, but it's my choice. And my mom told me that Grandpa will be so proud of me and that I deserve it.
My wife asked me to choose between my mom and her, and I think I'm going to divorce her. A little background. My mom and dad were both orphans. My dad died 2 weeks before I was born. My mom didn't really have a support system, so we were just the two of us. I never lacked for anything because my mother worked all of her life to give me the life that I have today, and didn't have time for herself to start a new life again. She did all the little jobs possible so that we didn't miss anything. She deprived herself of food to give me food. I had very good clothes while she had none. I saw her make sacrifices again and again, and always with a smile. Frankly, I always thought that she was an angel dressed in a human body. The only time she yelled at me was when I was 16, when I saw her getting sick and working at the same time. But she was angry and told me it was not my job to take care of her, and it was up to her to take care of me. She wanted me to get really good grades and get into the best universities. It's the only way I can protect myself when she can't anymore. Even at university, she didn't want me to work. I had to be focused on my studies, but she wanted me to volunteer so that I could be an adult who could do something with his hands. My wife and I met there while we both volunteered. My wife is a good person, but she was never close to her parents or her siblings. Yet she adored my mother since she met her. There were times when I thought that she loved my mother more than she loved me, and we laughed about it. Deep down, I think she was looking for the bond between mother and daughter that she did not have from her mother. When I finished my studies, I found a job, we moved in together, but she wasn't comfortable that I called my mom every day. Remind you, those are 10 to 15 minute calls. But eventually she stopped bringing it up. 2 years later, I bought a house for my mom. Because we never had a house in our name. We lived from apartment to apartment. So for all the sacrifices she made, it was for me the least of it, and it was non-negotiable. That's when the problem started with my wife, then girlfriend. She wanted me to think about us first. I told her that my dream had always been to buy my mom a house since I was little, and that's what I had to do. But she complained about it to my mom. My mom didn't even know that I bought a house for her, as it was supposed to be a surprise for her birthday. She was uncomfortable of receiving the house because of my wife, and told me that it wasn't necessary that we could use it for us when we get married. I was furious. I told my mother that the house was for her and she could do with it whatever she wanted, but it was time for her to think about herself first. Our relationship survived that. We got married and then we had our own house. Our life was going well until 2 months ago when my mother fell ill. I wanted her to come and live with us so that I could take care of her, but my wife didn't want to. I then decided to rent an apartment with my own money right next to our house so that I could be closer and go there to take care of her. But even that idea didn't sit well with my wife. Me and my wife don't have children yet. We both work. I usually come home at 6 p.m. But since my mother is sick, I go to see her and then come home around 8 p.m. On weekends, I see her for about 1 or 2 hours, and then the rest of the time I spend with my wife. We go on dates and I always accompany her in her hobbies even though she never went to mine. 2 days ago, she told me that she thought about it and she thinks that I prioritize my mom way too much. She told me that I had to choose between my mother and the life that I want to build with her. The truth is that I never made her feel that way. We both work, but I'm the one who cooks, and I pay a person to do the housework. I make sure I make the dishes that she likes. She didn't even know what I like to eat because I never complain. I run her baths, give her massages, flowers, or write her poems that I hide somewhere in the house for her to find out. We go on a trip 1 week in a month. I earn much more money than her. I told her to keep her money for herself, and I take care of all the bills, even hers. I always make sure to listen to her and consider her opinion. And I think that I'm easygoing because I can change my mind to accommodate hers. But I realize that she tries completely to dominate me, and the only subject where I don't give her a choice is my relationship with my mother.